What is up, everybody? Nintern here. We are back after a bit of a break, but honestly didn't miss out on much during that time. Uh, but I just want to break down kind of everything you need to know for Devour going into 12.0.7. Um, just to kind of start us off, no class changes. No class changes. That's not uncommon though for a point 0.7 patch. Um, you're still running the same talent loadout where, like I said back in 12.05, we are pressing soul ammo outside of meta to get into meta faster, and you generally want to avoid pressing it in meta. There's some like extremely niche cases where like pressing it's okay, but that's neither here nor there, and that's not what we're here to talk about. The thing we're here to talk about is two things: the Omnium Folio and the Sporefall raid. So, just going right into it with the Omnium Folio. What the Omnium Folio is what I think happened is Blizzard kind of saw how people perceived the borrowed power that they've been doing, honestly, since Dragonflight with like Cersei's Circlet and stuff like that, where they gave us an item, and I don't really think that was ever well perceived. Mostly because, oh, you're replacing a piece of gear that I worked hard for or whatever with some crap that, you know, I wear until into the next season, because it's happened multiple times where these things come out, they're super terrible, then they get mega buffed into the moon, and then they're good into the next season. Where like I think the Delve belt was better and better than like Myth belts until like the end of like until you were basically done with gearing until they got nerfed. But the Omnium Folio was kind of a solution to that, but still giving borrowed power at the same time. So one thing to know about the Omnium Folio, which is honestly the main thing anyone should know about it, is this is going to persist throughout the entire rest of the expansion, which I actually like, because instead of in the next point in 12.1.7, instead of say giving us a gloves that give you power of some kind, they could just add more to the folio, or just say, no, go complete your folio. There you go. There's your borrowed power. You're done. My guess is they would just add more to this. But basically how this works is in Silvermoon, you'll get a starter quest. It's a very short quest line. I mean, I think it took me like 10 minutes to do while I was kind of doing other stuff at the same time on the PTR here. And then you unlock the Omnium Folio. So the Omnium Folio it is time gated. It's supposed to get you through the rest of the season basically with something to do. And you get these weekly quests from Magister Umbric and Grand Magister Romoth to get motes of Omnial Inquiry, which is just a nothing burger for thing you put into the folio to get more stuff. Obviously, what we're all here to know is just Nintern. I don't care, what's best for me for Devourer. Well, I'll make it pretty simple. Rune of Unleashed Fire, Rune of Void Tainted Shell, or Rune of Self-Mending, Rune of Lingering, because this is your only choice, Rune of Burning Haste, or Rune of Masterful Cunning, and then Rune of Overload. If you just want, there's the answer. Don't really care what they do. Now, if you care what they do, these two are just, this is your main. The thing about the folio is that when you get, especially like in here, but it's all based around this core rune. They're all runes, but the core rune is these two. There's Rune of Unleashed Fire, which is just your spells and abilities have a high chance to unleash the power of flame, dealing fire damage to an enemy or restoring health to the most injured nearby ally. Pretty simple. The other one is Rune of Void Touched Orbs. Every 10 seconds, you attract a Void Touched Orb up to 5. Damaging an enemy sends all of the orbs at them. And then your healing spells spend all of them on the nearest injured ally. For us, obviously, it's the damage part. Rune of Unleashed Fire is just better. It's been simmed to death at this point. Rune of Unleashed Fire is just better. And this is kind of your basis for a lot of the other points in this Omnium Folio tree. The next tier, this is purely defensive stuff, so you won't have a power gain between week 1 and week 2. These are also relatively minor anyway. Like Rune of Self-Mending, when your core rune, Rune of Unleashed Fire, deals damage or healing, you are healed for like 5k if you're below 75% health. I think I have when I'm on PTR right now, so I'm not at the same eye level I'm at on live, but I have like 500k health in raid or something after fort buff. So like this isn't really anything, but it happens every single time your rune procs while you're below 75% health. Sure. Because your only other option is Rune of Void Tainted Shell, suffering more than 10% of your max health in a single hit, grants you a shield that absorbs 18,523 damage for 10 seconds, but also inflicts 3,296 damage to you every 1 second. This can only occur every 30 seconds. I'm leaning more towards Rune of Self-Mending, mostly because this shield is basically nothing, and it also deals damage to you. So the shield also gets less effect than it really presents because of that. And it can only occur every 30 seconds, whereas, like, Rune of Self-Mending just happens when I am below that and this procs. But I mean, either of these are fine because it's such a nothing burger that it's meaningless. Or if you're feeling real fancy, every time you take damage, you gain 115 speed for 10 seconds, and then that it can only occur every 30 seconds. I don't know how much that would end up being in terms of a percentage off the top of my head. Rune of Lingering. Every time your core rune deals damage, or no, sorry. Your core rune, Unleashed Fire, deals an additional cosmic damage to enemies or an additional 5,763 healing to allies over 8 seconds. Your core rune now favors targets that are unaffected by your Rune of Lingering. Cool. It's just a little dot spread thing. Again, this is such a low amount of damage that it just doesn't mean that much until we get to here. Which, all of these, I'm not going to read all these out because they're all the same, except they just change the stat that you choose. So, but the one you're likely going to pick is Rune of Burning Haste or Rune of Rune Masterful Cunning, which is just every time your rune procs, you gain 78 of that secondary stat for 10 seconds with overlapping procs. This is where most of the power is coming from here. And then the last one is just buffing your core rune. The damage and healing of your core rune is increased by 100%. That's the one we're probably going with. The damage and healing of your Rune of Lingering is increased by 100%. Less powerful. Your core rune leaves an echoing curse on the target for 10 seconds and accumulates 50% of all damage or healing done to the target by your core rune or your Rune of Lingering. When the curse expires, all accumulated damage or healing is dealt to the target. Sure. Just take Rune of Overload. But it's a pretty simple system, and I prefer that over... Like, if anyone remembers Cersei's Circlet, I mean, there was kind of a pain in the ass for a little bit for theory crafters to, like, figure out the best combinations, and then there were some that were discovered later, and that changed things after they were already buffed, and it was just a whole mess. But this is just something I think, I mean, it's simple, it's fine. It's the seasonal borrowed power thing that everyone deals with. But now you don't have to equip anything. I've already made a video talking about this, but I kind of have some better thoughts on it. For the Sporefall raid. I will be pretty concise here because I did make a whole video about this, which you can find on my channel. But basically the TLDR is Helm really good because catalyze it. You'll just catalyze this to your tier Helm, Bis, Helm, great. Rotmire Sporeheart, I was a little conflicted about this. It's the basics of it is just that if you have a Myth Illyria neck like I have, you don't wear this. Even if it's higher, like it's a higher eye level, sure, but it just loses out because of the Illyria proc being better. And a slight, I mean, obviously it's a flipped stats, and like Rotmire Sporeheart doesn't have haste on it. But it's not bad by any means. But honestly, your healers in your raid are probably going to get this anyway. Belt, we just wear. We don't catalyze this actually. I think in Abyss setup, this is actually better to just wear as it is. But just sim if you're not sure. But obviously, Bis Belt, just better in every way. Spore Caller's Blooming Loop. This is Bis. This is Omega Bis. All of our damage is nature damage. Cosmic damage is nature, holy, arcane, and shadow. So dealing nature damage has a chance to inflict Rot Bloom, dealing 4,043 nature damage over 15 seconds. If the enemy is already affected by your Rot Bloom, it is consumed to deal 120% of its remaining damage. Sure. All you'll do is, if you are wearing, because this is something that's gone around lately too, because if you don't have a Myth Eye of Midnight from Lura, and you don't have a, like most people don't, and you don't have a Myth Bond of Light from Vanguard, your Bis pre 12.0.7 is the Nexus Point ring set from Nexus Point Zenith. Omission of Light and Occlusion of Void. But if you have a chance to get this at Myth, just sim yourself. I don't have a concrete answer as to, but I say I don't have a concrete answer, but I basically do. This is going to be better. You'll probably replace Occlusion of Void, and then you'll call it a day because this thing is very, very good. So if you have the chance, because from what I'm aware, the raid isn't that hard anyway, so it should just be a loot pinata. And then Spore Lord's Mycelial Insignia. This thing is not good. If you're questioning it, just sim yourself. Like I've said, like if you only have dungeon loot available to you, but for some reason you do Sporefall, this could be good for you over like Heart of Wind or something. But just sim it. It's not great. And then there's a couple toys, a decor, and a hat. So, but as far as 12.0.7 goes for Devourer, that's really it. We're gonna be getting 12.1 PTR very soon upon the patch coming out, probably the week after, 2 weeks after. So look forward to content from me pertaining to that. We're back. We're back, baby. And then be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description below. You can find me there. You can ask me questions, and then also check out my written guide in the Fellhammer Discord server. But otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful day.